And let me get this present. The definition given by the IDEA is that autism is a developmental disability that affects children prior to the age of 3 in 3 different areas, which is verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, and academic performance. The DSM-5 definition is that autism spectrum disorder is comprised of 2 domains, which is social communication impairments, restrictive and repetitive behaviors and interests. This must occur during the early childhood years and create challenges in everyday functioning. So basically, both definitions define autism spectrum disorder as a social, verbal, and behavioral issue within the first 3 years of life. Fun fact that April is actually Autism Awareness Month, and throughout the month, we focus on sharing stories and providing opportunities to increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism, which fosters worldwide support. So, the characteristics and strengths and weaknesses that come with autism. The characteristics themselves are social communication impairments, which are emotional reciprocity, um, which is basically about uh, a social norm where if someone does something for you, then you feel obligated to return the favor, which children with autism spectrum disorder tend to not have. Um, it also involves nonverbal communication, the inability to maintain relationships. Um, More characteristics are restricted and repetitive behaviors and interests, which that includes speech routines, perseveration, which is a repetition of a particular response, such as a word, phrase, or gesture, regardless of the absence or cessation of a stimulus. So these children can't really control whether or not they want to keep repeating or doing the same things that they're doing. Another one is sensory fixations, where they just get fixated on a certain sense or something and they can't get away from that. Some strengths that come with autism are hyperlexia, which is it refers to a syndrome characterized by an intense fascination with letters or numbers and an advanced reading ability. And children who have hyperlexia read at levels far beyond what is expected at their age. Another strength would be memorization, logical thinking ability, striving in areas that don't require a lot of social communication, such as math or science. Um, Being able to use logic and use numbers by themselves is a big plus. They're very precise and detail oriented, so their work is very detailed and good. Some weaknesses that come with it is social communication itself. They don't do very well in group projects or anything that has to do with collaborating with others, peer or not peer. The inability to keep relationships, which is I talked about before. It's very difficult for them to have friendships or people who understand them, and vice versa. They have a dependence on routine, so it's very important to keep that routine. And if they get out of that routine, they tend to become all out of whack. They have many behavioral issues that come with autism. And this is just a fun picture on why people who have autism remain proud and confident in who they are. And the most important part is to not let it control your life, and they can still do anything they feel they want to do within life. Some warning signs that come with children with ASD. The inability to relate to children or adults. So it makes it very hard for them to have a personal connection with people who may not be in their lives every day, such as their parents. Poor or lack of speech, which falls into the verbal issues. Uh, oversensitive, Oversensitive and undersensitive to sound, which is a big warning sign. They don't do very well in places like lunchrooms or places that there's a lot of noise or people that can get really confusing because they tend to either fixate on that sound or not focus on it whatsoever. Inappropriate playing with toys. They just are playing either in a violent way or not using the toy in the specified way. Difficulty dealing with changes in routine, which was talked about before. If their routine is changed up, then they have a really hard time getting back on track on what they're supposed to do. Inappropriate laughing or crying in situations that may not involve or need one of the two. The lack of awareness to danger, which I thought was very, very important to put in here because anytime they're by themselves, such as crossing a road or something like that, they don't have that awareness to the danger that they could be facing. Hyperactivity or passiveness, which is another sign that goes with a lot of different disabilities, but oversensitive and undersensitive to touch, which goes along with sound. It's the senses that really they fixate on or can't fixate on. A strange attachment to objects, such as a blankie or a toy or something like that, and lack of eye contact, where that falls into the social issues. Primary factors and prevalence. The primary cause of autism is biomedical. It has to do with abnormalities in the brain. Um, oops. Brain growth rates in early development are all out of whack. The neurochemistry is completely disoriented, and the genetic factors are something that are just inherited. Um, the prevalence of ASD, 7.1% of all students 3 to 21 in special education have ASD. 1 in 88 children have it, which is a pretty vast amount. Autism has increased by 78% from 2002 to 2008, which is a huge, huge increase. Boys are 4.5 times more likely to get it than girls are. And white children are 1.2 times and 1.5 times more likely than black or Hispanic children to have autism. Collaborative teaching. This is a very, very important factor. Collaboration between all teachers and their caretakers is vital in the development of children with ASD. The most important factors that go along with that would be the procedures. It's very important that they're taught, practiced, and executed in both home and school. If they're just being done at home or just being done at school, it ruins the routine and ruins the practice that they're developing. Records are kept and procedures are actively used. It's important to keep the data for everything because then you can see how far they're progressing or how far they're not progressing or the areas that they need to progress more. Budget or resources are met and applied. It's very important to add different resources and accommodations for children, such as different tests or toys within the classroom or at home that may help them personally. Another big factor is inclusion itself. It's very important to stress inclusion and friendships because that's the biggest thing they have a hard time maintaining. A peer buddy program to keep on routine and track is very, very positive. Having someone who is their peer and doing the same things they're doing, keep them on track is a very helpful factor. Learning doesn't end in school, and it's extremely important that their development continues in every area of their lives. Parents and teachers actively work together in and out of school, and it's the basis for any child's development. It's important to not only continue this development out of the class, but to continue the routines and habits that lead to a positive learning process. And it's positive interaction with the teachers in group studies, along with the use of technology as other forms of learning, is a strategy that's used by teachers worldwide. Technology such as computers or iPads or anything, it just gives another look at learning. The setting and the environment. It's extremely important that the environment remains safe and modified and accommodates every student. Adding modifications to certain areas such as lunchrooms where children with ASD may struggle the most, that's extremely important because if they're not looking forward to that part of their day or they have to stress about it, that'll be a focus point for them and it'll be hard for them to focus on anything else. Adding accommodations for before, during, and after class, such as walking through the halls where they get a break or something like that, it just adds to the routine and the habits that form a positive development. Offer a friendly environment that does not add stress. It's really important with the amount of stress they already feel and already have going on to not add to that by challenging them too much or anything like that. Have a silent area or room in case of any issues. This is extremely important because sometimes things may just go all out of awry, and it's important to get these students into a room by themselves where they can focus back and calm down and really get back into the flow of things. Ensuring peers understand the goal of inclusion. It's not only you yourself as the teacher, is it important to stress that everyone must be friends and include everyone, but it's important for all of the peers to understand that. And if the peers understand that, it just makes it a better environment for every student. Um, Strategies to teaching ASD. There's a lot of strategies that go along with this. Some positive behavior supports that go along is evidence-based method to ensure values for social and learning development within everyone. Problem solving, data-based approach to records and improve collaboration, learning, and social outcomes. Problem solving is extremely important for any children. Um, the applied behavior analytic techniques, which is trial training, teaching in natural environments. So teachers purposely teach in these environments to help with as another strategy and a different place to learn. Sensory, motor planning, and communication stressed within caretakers and teachers. All of these factors are extremely important, especially sensory, as they tend to focus on their senses the most. Social stories to include the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is very important, and it refers to the side effect of schooling, which is learned but not openly intended to be taught. So children are learning this without even realizing. Modern teaching today includes so many tiny little details that go overlooked, but along with every teacher comes this every little stress they're forced to go through and making the environment safe and intellectually challenging for every student. And not only do they have to worry about the teaching, they have to learn about the spaces, the learning spaces, the finances, parent education, technical education and support, professional development itself. There's so many aspects to teaching and learning about ASD that it's very important that all these details are focused on. Sensory teaching is extremely important when it comes to autism. These techniques are one of the best ways to teach these autism children. Children often become antsy and overstimulated, which is a big problem when you're in a classroom with a bunch of other children who may be all focused. Self-stimulation is extremely important. It's important for them to stimulate their senses and their emotions and everything and while in class. Sensory activities such as Play-Doh or slime help the students keep organized and regulated. It creates new pathways to the brain, and fun and needs are being met. So not only is the child having all of his needs met, but he feels like, or he or she just feels like they're having a good time playing with Play-Doh or slime or any of these sensory-oriented strategies. Sensory mapping is something that was very interesting that I found while looking up autism. Um, it helps with showing one visually how every sense is used and processed throughout the day. And the focus on this mapping can help students see the importance and consistency that our senses are used every single day. And that's the end.